All right, welcome everyone. I just wanted to, we tried to say hello last time. We had some technical difficulties. I just want to express my appreciation to all of you for the work you're doing. This is an opportunity to make a historic change in our nation and in our community. And I appreciate you being part of it. For those people who are watching and would like to comment, we have a number of ways to comment in addition to commenting during our public comment periods. We have a special email address where you may submit comments, policereform@whiteplainsny.gov. We have a dedicated phone line, 914-422-1313, where you can record a voice message regarding your comments. We are partnering with trusted community organizations who you can communicate directly with, and then they will transmit the comments to the committee. El Centro Hispano, The Loft, the LGBT Community Center, My Sister's Place, NAACP White Plains Greenberg Branch, White Plains Mayor's Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities. We are also streaming live on the White Plains website, as well as on Optimum Channel 75, Verizon Channel 47. And if you have any other questions, please visit the webpage, citywhiteplains.com/police reform. So thank you for what you're doing. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the chair.
Okay. Hello, everyone. We are into our second listening session. Hopefully we will get some more participants. We are very interested in hearing what the community has to say. We need your feedback so that we can use what your comments and your questions and your concerns, and we can use it in a way to help us with our progress, with our work. So with that being said, we're ready for our first comment. Okay.
Our first speaker is Alan Himmelstein.
Not me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, but I actually really am here to listen. So I'm going to waive my right to speak at this time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Then our second speaker is Jim Eisenberg.
Yes, hello. Hi. Hi,
Hi.
Frank. I meant Reverend. How are you? Karen, I sent the video again. I'm sorry, it was the YPI video. So
I'll look for it.
I sent it. It was on the first note. It's at the bottom of the description of the YPI program. So I guess while you're looking, can I'll introduce and say something. Is that the way to go, Karen? Is that how it works?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Good. So I appreciate being invited here. I'm a resident of White Plains for 36 years. I have, with the Youth Police Initiative and even some leadership work, done some work with the White Plains Police Department with Commissioner Chong and previous commissioners, and with I know Captain Spencer, and I think I see Wade Hardy, who would, I think when we did the YPI was a lieutenant working with us. So it's Wade, if you're there, it's nice to see you. I have been involved working with police across the country. I have written a book on police leadership and interviewed 26 police chiefs across the country to discuss community policing. I have a doctorate from Berkeley. I'll apologize, I'm a Berkeley guy in California. I know that will raise skepticism, but I study criminology and have been involved in the reform of the criminal justice system. I'm retired as the executive director of NAFI, North American Family Institute, which is in New York State, which was focused primarily on keeping young people out of institutions and running community-based programs. So I have experience in that area as well. I've taught at University of New Haven Criminal Justice School on police leadership, as well as at Pace University. I've been a consultant for the Baltimore Police Commissioner primarily was brought in to help them back off zero tolerance, which in many ways at that time in early 2000s was a version of New York City stop and frisk. So I was brought in to help back off that system and stop it. I work with your two grandpas in the office there with you, with Grandpas United, and have been involved with the White Plains Youth Bureau since I've lived here. And finally, I had when in the early year 2000, I was asked to start, come to a national program called the Police Corps, which was not in New York nor California because they thought they were doing a great job with police training. It was a national program to focus on community policing. And I was brought in by a man who had been Bobby Kennedy's assistant to teach police how to talk to people and to focus on leadership. It was in 30 states. And I went across the country for 7 years. It's actually one of the reasons I got back involved getting my doctorate again at Berkeley after 30 years. In that program, my focus was how to teach police to talk to people in the community and how to focus on community policing. I also taught a number of sessions across the country on police leadership. And that's what the book is about. What I want to hopefully just take a bit of time today is talk about the Youth Police Initiative program, which is a trust building, facilitated dialogue, comes out of my experience with conflict resolution, which brings young people and police together. And now we have done it in more than 30 cities. And actually the first city we did it in was in White Plains. I think, Frank, it must have been almost 10 or 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. We partnered with the White Plains Youth Bureau. The issue was primarily, I think, happening when we walked into it, was the theaters had been built downtown in White Plains. And there was a lot of, whatever the version is, quote, concern about young people, and in this case, young people of color, being downtown at the theaters on Friday and Saturday night. And Frank and I went to then Commissioner, and we talked about how to bring the police together with young people to reduce arrests, reduce negative contacts, build relationships. And we, in line with the White Plains Youth Bureau's program, Step Up program, which was outstanding. I think, Frank, we trained almost 200 young people at first, together with the White Plains Police in the Youth Police Initiative, which is designed to create a dialogue between police and young people, reduce arrests, reduce negative contacts. We had young people in this city from a whole variety of youth bureau, Rochambeau, different schools. We also have done it in Yonkers, Mount Vernon, Newburgh, 30 cities. We've also worked with probation to reduce bringing in young people who may be in some way targeted and see in which there are ways to reduce that negative contact. I would say the White Plains police officers who went through the YPI program, as well as officers across the country, were incredibly engaged, and it was a whole new experience for them. And at the time at Wade, certainly Lieutenant Wade Hardy was the lead person with the White Plains with White Plains Police. We do a pre and post test survey with the police and with the kids. The surveys indicate after we've gone through the 5 afternoons of training, we find that there's an entirely new relationships that's been created. There's a really, in many ways, I hope, an ending of a lot of preconceived notions both the police may have about young people and the young people may have about police. There's a book that's now been written on the YPI by a woman, Dr. Nina Rose Fisher at John Jay University. And we're doing it now both virtually and in person. Young people get paid $80 to participate. It involves 15 to 20 young people and 5 to 10 police officers in each session. We have a training for training program that can allow it to be sustainable. Because I was going to suggest, if it's of interest to the committee and possibly we could restart the program in White Plains, we could create a trainer for trainer program that could involve police, community leaders, and young people. There are lots of organizations we could be linking with. Potentially gather some funding from DCGS and private donors. And from my point of view, create a leadership program of young people who can be leaders in the community who now have had experience working with police and can be a part of all of the reform efforts that are going on absolutely necessarily around criminal justice. And in our state, there's a lot happening around juvenile justice, a lot happening looking to reduce mass incarceration. I think opening up relations and creating leadership is important. Finally, we have also done a version of this program, and Captain Spencer knows this, in 4 cities with Neighbors Link from Mount Kisco that works with the immigrant community, with police departments and DSS workers in the DSS offices to open them up to building relations, because they have relations with police on Child Protective Service, and a lot of social workers in some way share the same views that people have in terms of skepticism about police, and police have skepticism about DSS workers. And we've got a lot of support. Chief Castelli has been great on this, and Kevin McGuire, the DSS commissioner, has been a big supporter of it. And finally, we have been doing work in Mount Kisco and Ossining with Neighbors Link, working with the immigrant community and families and parents. And that's been very, very successful. There's certainly been a fair amount of fear at first on people's part, but the police have been outstanding who've been involved with it and opening up relations and reducing fear. So my real interest is the overall reform of the criminal justice system. I think generally White Plains police have a very, very good reputation in the communities, but I think there's a tremendous opportunity, and I'll finish, in terms of not only dealing with the present police, but how to develop future police leaders in our community, especially as we're bringing in people into our community policing who may have an opportunity to do things different. So I'm open to, obviously you can share the video whenever is appropriate, and it's about 10 minutes, and I think people will get a good sense of YPI. But I hope there's an opportunity to start this again in White Plains, because White Plains is such an important center and a well-respected center in our New York communities, to come back again and demonstrate the value of this trust building program. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
How are you, Matt? Speak up. You were the lead, you and Frank. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Eisenberg. We had a late registrant who indicated that she would like to speak via Zoom. Her name is Lena Anderson. Lena, are you on the line? Lena Anderson?
She did tell me she was having trouble getting the link.
Okay, we'll come back to her.
Okay.
And we have someone who is ready to speak to you in person, so I will just get that person.
Is it okay? Yeah, I had a pad in my car. And you live in White Plains or Green Bay? You live in White Plains? Oh, that's your thing.
Right over here.
Hello.
This is Tracy.
How are you?
Hi, how are
Hi,
you?
Tracy, how are you?
Tracy Jones.
Just proceed.
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Jones. I'm a resident of the city of White Plains my whole life. I'm 53 years old.
Tracy.
Louder? Yeah.
Please, thank
It's
you.
hard. I have asthma and it's hard under this mask, so I'll do the best I can. So, on June 23rd of 2019, I had just got back that Friday, the 21st, from the Cayman Islands with my daughter. I was very tired and very jet lagged. That Friday, upon me reaching home where I reside at 6 Howard Avenue, off of Prospect, North Clinton's, there were maybe 15 Mexicans that lived in my building at my party, and it was some type of religious holiday. So I kind of let them do their thing, even though I was tired. So I live in the basement, my windows, right there. So I went in my back and kind of stayed to rest. I was jet lagged. But by Sunday, the party was still going on. They had 3 propane tanks up against the wall, and it's the basement. So it was very scary. The smells were sickening. The party was like 25 men. They had cases and cases of my dad. I live alone. I wasn't really scared of them. It was just maybe the drinking and the men, and then it carried on so long. So about 7 p.m. that Sunday, June 23rd, I called the police because I wanted to sit in my living room and be at peace. I have fans in the window, so I had the little girls. The parents were drinking, so nobody was minding the kids. I had the little girls coming up to the fan, which is, I did it as a child, put it in their mouth and making the noise so their voice can be, having fun, but it's disturbing me. And I had a teacup chihuahua who's just barking off the chain. I asked them, could they watch the kids? They really don't speak no English, they whatever. So this went on. So after a while, it came about 7:30, something to 8. I called the police. I told them that, who I was and what was going on. And could they just please send somebody to kind of break up? It's been going on all weekend, Sunday, enough is enough. It's like 8:30 now. She said, okay. An hour went by, so 45 minutes to an hour. I didn't see no police. I'm waiting out in my area, but I happened to look out my kitchen window. I seen 2 officers out the side on the building 8 side talking to a random Caucasian man about what was going on around the side of the house. The police had never came around to the side where the problem was. So when I seen them, I'm like, officer, I thought they were looking for the person. So I'm like, officer, it's me, I'm the one who called. They looked me in the face and they didn't say anything. So I went back in the living room, waited patiently, thinking they were going to come around and knock on the door. They never did. They leave. 15, 20 minutes go by. I called the police station back and I'm saying, ma'am, I seen officers come, but they never came to speak to me to see what the problem was. The same lady who kept answering the phone at the police station informed me that the police had came and that the problem was solved. So I got a little upset because I asked her, how could it be solved when they never came to speak to me? They didn't know what was going on or why I called. She assured me it was taken care of. We kind of got into a little back and forth. I wasn't being disrespectful. I just couldn't understand. And like I said, I was getting irate and more irate. In any event, she started saying, I'll send the police officers back. So I asked her not to send those 2 back because I was already a little frustrated because I told them it's me. They never came. They didn't acknowledge me. And I'm the one who was calling for the help. So about 9:30, I asked her not to send those 2 same officers. She sent them anyway. I'm looking out the window, waiting for them to come to my door. They stopped and took the The party was still going on. They stopped, they talked to the teenage son, because he's the only one who speaks English, before they came to my door. When they got to my door, they said hi, whatever happened. They were very, very rude and nasty. So I said, hi, I'm Tracy Jones. I'm the one who called. I said to them, I saw you out the window. I told you it was me. Why didn't you come see what was going on? Evidently, he didn't like that. So I seen the look, so I just left that question alone. And I started telling him that the kids were in the window. It's, making my dog bark. I'm not having no peace. He told me I was lying. Looked me dead in my face and told me, you are lying. So I got so upset, because I was already to my wits' end. But I was very honest. I told him that I'm to my wits' end, if enough is enough, somebody has to come do something. I'll pay rent, living, and I'm supposed to have some peace, especially if I worked with them some, not being a pesky neighbor, Jesus, it's Sunday, And when he told me I was lying, it just threw me back, and I felt very disrespected. So I just went on. I guess my voice got a little more chumpy, and he went on to tell me that I was lying. So I'm looked him in his face. I said, why would I lie to you and be going through all of this to have you come and be lying? So he just ignored me. So I was trying to tell them that the brick in the door is not, my landlord was away, she's sick, she has cancer, she's a very nice lady. But we have keys, just me and the other tenants. But you have 50 men now. I have pictures of them right outside my door, my window. I said, this door needs to be locked. You live here, if you want to have a party, take them to the side, bring them in your house. Don't do it in front of my window, because this is my window. They're sitting like this, 2 men. My dog is driving me crazy. It's not supposed to be like that. And then when I told the officers, you see this brick, because every time I removed the brick to make sure that door was locked, the people would put it back. So when the officer came, and my biggest thing was just leaving that door locked. You're supposed to have a key to get in. That's giving you interest to me. And it's the basement, it's dark, and I live alone. I said, officer, you see that brick? That's not supposed to be there. The landlord said this door is to be locked at all times. So when I went to, I said, that brick right there. I went down to get that brick. That officer just grabbed me, threw me on the ground. Mind you, I started screaming. I don't have no underclothes on because I was in my door. I didn't let him in. I was talking to them behind the door. He just grabbed me and threw me to the ground. And I was screaming, I don't have no underclothes on. And then the door still propped open, so all the drunk men can see everything. My shirt came over my head, and it was horrific. And I was begging them, what are you? I didn't understand. What are you doing? They threw me to the ground, from the ground up against the wall like this. They put me in some type of chokehold. I have pictures. I have contusions. I have reports from the doctor. They twist my arm so hard and put some kind of pressure point that it took 8 months for the bruise in my arm to heal. One day I went to put my bra on and do that, and I couldn't lift the arm up because I suffer already from arthritis and joint inflammation. I got so scared. I was like, why can't I do this? I had to use this hand. So I ran to the emergency room because I still didn't put nothing together. But he told me it was from the contusion so bad. And I had the paperwork right here. I had the body cam where you hear me screaming, you're choking me, you're hurting me. Why are you pressing so hard in my neck? And they wouldn't answer. He kicked my legs apart. He said, I don't have no underclothes on. There was a young cop, a new cop, but the older cop, he was very, very mean. It was like you looking in them, and I'm looking in them, I'm trying to turn, and he's forcing my head back, but I'm trying to look at him and ask him, why are you doing it so hard? I'm a woman, what am I gonna do? Like, well, I'm not even dressed, what can I do to you? Why do you gotta do this so hard where it hurts so bad? They twist your arm back so bad. And I'm sorry for being emotional, but they end up, I have the voice statement, it's all a lie. The statement said that the boy said the police came and asked him. The police told him to say that because the boy would never say that. I knew the boy all his life. He wouldn't lie and say I threw a rock at his head when he know I didn't. So if the police talked to them first, they were mad at me because I kept calling the police station and they had to come back. So they just came back with aggression. When I asked them why they was taking me to the police, why I was being arrested, the cop said to me, because you threw a rock at the kid's head. He didn't say that, but in the statement, the little boy says that, but the cop had to tell him to say that because the kids were playing on a fire escape, which was broke, which was another concern. But I was trying to tell the police that they're running up and down, but it's old and you know how the step is hanging. I said, I didn't want them to bust their head in front of my window, you know, it was just too much. It was too much going on. But the party went on for a whole other week and nobody did nothing. You know, and then when I came to your thing, I had pictures to that day when that lady asked me, anybody live anywhere, that the people make you feel like you don't belong. I'm from America. I grew up and was raised and worked all my life. My daughter's a registered nurse, a college graduate. It's just me and her. And I have every right, you know, I don't understand. I just didn't understand. Only for them to put me in some crisis thing when I'm already in therapy, been in therapy my whole life. That's changed my life around. I have a rap sheet. There was nothing for 14, 15 years. That shows that my therapy was working. But when you did this to me and you put me back up there like I was nothing, those people weren't there to help me. They was just doing what they're supposed to do. And it hurt me because it knocked me back down to a place that I had thought I graduated from. And I don't want other women that fight and struggle every day to be a better person because everybody is not okay. And it's a way to deal with people. Even if I struggle with my emotions every day, is to be a better person. I'm a loving Christian woman now, and I don't do certain things. And for those men who I looked up to the White Plains police all my life. I was proud to be in White Plains. All my family's in Yonkers. My parents died of cancer. My grandmother was just me and my daughter left. So I've had a lot of things to deal with. So when they did that to me, I felt unsafe. Only for the next morning, 4 o'clock, two of the same ones up on the building at 8. I had the judge said I had to go that next morning, which was a Monday morning, after I bailed my own self out of jail at midnight. I had to come home with no underwear and no bra and a see-through t-shirt. And I'm a woman. Why would you put me through that? And I'm begging you to at least get my robe. You hear me screaming to the officer because I was so embarrassed to walk through. Everybody that can see, you can see through a thin t-shirt. And they rolled me in the car like that. And it traumatized me because I had to get my pictures taken. I had to do all of that with all these men looking right through me, right at my private stuff. And I felt violated. And I still feel violated, very much so. I have pictures of the bruises that were out of control. And for me to be the one who called the cops just so they could ask them to put the party out. Since my landlord came back, she told them there will absolutely be no cooking. There was some religious holiday that it went on for 2 weeks straight. You can't do that in a private thing. You rent a school or you rent a center for that type stuff. But the police was so mad that they told them, it's in the voice statement, the police told them that they did nothing wrong and just tried to leave Miss Tracy alone. That's what he said. But then came back and said I threw a rock at the boy's head, and that's why he was arresting me. But he wasn't supposed to even talk to the people first. He should have came to he wouldn't have been prejudiced if you would have spoke to me first. He wouldn't have been able to say I'm lying. I didn't lie to you. How are you going to take this boy's word? And he's a little kid that don't speak no English. And I have it all here. Here, I have the hospital report for the contusions to my arm. I have the body cam. I went to several lawyers because I just felt like wasn't even about nothing. I just don't want another woman just to have to go through that, especially naked. That did something to me. I'm sorry. And I feel like I don't have nobody. This is where the problem occurs, because now you feel like you got to take matters into your own hands to protect you. If I call the police, what they gonna do to me next? They gonna lie on me? What they gonna do? I never in a million years thought that the police beat me. I don't even stand for a man to put his hands on my. How these police are supposed to help me bruise my body so bad that I'm affected, and then couldn't even go to physical therapy because I couldn't afford the copay 3 times a week and taxi fare. It's not fair. It's not fair. It shouldn't happen. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you very much for your
I'm
comments.
sorry for being emotional.
Tracy, there's some
Glad
water,
to
water
hear
over there.
your story.
Just glad
Thank you for sharing.
that somebody listen, because I never have to try to get lawyers. Nobody want to deal with the police.
Thank you, Lord.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. You say. Karen will let us know who our next speaker is as soon as she comes back in the room. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Dr. Williams. Gary, how are you?
They say I'm
How are
good.
you? Good, good, good.
How's everybody doing? I don't need to just speak to Dr. Williams.
Very good.
Our next speaker is Gary Stooks.
Amen. Good afternoon. I'm here representing a colleague and a friend. His name is Pastor Charles.
Nice and loud. Gary.
And with
Nice and loud.
I'll do my best.
Thank you. I know with the mask, it's tough to hear.
You don't know half the story.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So in representing him, I want to read to you his thoughts. Thank you. You know what it was? I parked and forgot my mask. Already 10 minutes late. I had to go back, get my mask, come back. All right, for the sake of time, I'll try and be brief. In the words of our ancestor, the Honorable John Robert Lewis, I have come tonight to make some trouble. Trouble. I thank you for the honor of being here, being able to address you, to address the community where we grew up, and to the community who has supported me for over 61 years. I remind you, these are the thoughts of Reverend Dr. Trollinger. To those who don't know, Reverend Irvin Trollinger Jr. was born in the former St. Agnes Hospital in the city of White Plains. Grew up in the Fairview section in the township of Greenberg. A graduate of the class of 1977 from Woodlands High School and attended Morris Brown College. If you'll allow me. beg your pardon. Morris Brown College, located in Atlanta, Georgia, majoring in social work and theology. Currently, as the pastor of the Calvary Baptist Church located in the city of White Plains, his role as pastor is current. And he is the president of the Ministers Fellowship Council of the city of White Plains and vicinity. As a member of the White Plains religious leaders and a member of the White Plains Greenberg NAACP chapter, cluster leader of the Central Hudson Baptist Association, and a member of the Westchester Baptist Clergy Alliance. Lastly, he is an honorary chaplain for the City of White Plains Police Public Safety Department. So I come to you tonight on his behalf to list these memberships in many organizations which are keenly aware of Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 203. It has offered a great partnership between community-based organizations, houses of worship, police department, and elected officials. Tonight, on behalf of the Ministers Fellowship Council, White Plains religious leaders, and White Plains NAACP in regards to 5 distinctive topics. We have identified these topics, but we are not limited to just these 5. Our concerns for reimagining policing and reforming policy within the city of White Plains and Westchester County. It is hard for the community's consciousness to understand the shooting of Kamal Flowers. He was only 24 years of age and was shot in his heart. This shooting occurred in the city of New Rochelle. It is hard for the community to consciously understand the shooting of a Black off-duty police officer from Mount Vernon Police Department, Christopher Ridley. He was 21 years old and was gunned down on the streets of White Plains by Westchester County Police officers. It is hard for the community's consciousness to understand the reason why a medical alert goes off and the full police tactical force is deployed. When the situation was over, Mr. Kim Chamberlain, Sr., a U.S. Marine and a retired corrections officer, who clearly stated he did not need their assistance, was killed by White Plains police officers. It is hard for the community's consciousness to understand why Charles Campbell was killed by an off-duty NYPD police officer in Dobbs Ferry over a parking space. In only one incident was a police officer ever held accountable for his actions. These 4 persons I have mentioned are just the tip of an issue of why policing policies and practices must be reformed. There are 5 points the 3 organizations we represent are seeking for the county to create. They are as follows. First, a citizens review board to deal with the unjust policing actions within Westchester County, and for the citizen review board to have subpoena power. Second, the implementation of anti-bias training principles and practices. Third, the transparency, data collection, and reporting. Fourth, community policing for all police officers, including supervisors. Fifth, the establishment of a county-wide mental health crisis intervention unit. These 5 points are the core topics of our collective thoughts. There are more, but these 5 came to the forefront in our meeting. Personally, I wish to include for the review of local clergy holding the position of chaplain to be trained, informed of policing practices used to de-escalate conflict and or potential violent behavior within the community. Lastly, regarding community policing, police officers who are assigned to sectors should be aware of the stakeholders in the community they patrol. It should be a requirement for officers to know their sectors and for the community to know their sector police officers. The days of them against us and us against them must be over. In order for policing to be reimagined, implemented by making policy, in order for policing to be reimagined, there must be a willingness to face past deeds and rectify them accordingly. This can be implemented by making policing within the city of White Plains and our county an example of a unified, persevere, and protect model. A model that focuses on the perseverance and protection of a community, I might add. This summer, there were 3 young men working at the church. Reverend Trollinger was speaking with them and asked their opinion on what is needed in our policing. Here's what they stated. Police should rethink how to handle situations and move to de-escalate. Move to de-escalate a situation for safety. They need to be retrained to handle issues on the streets better. Police should use non-lethal weapons to bring situations under control. Allow me to read some of these lines a second time, because these are from my heart. Hey, police should use non-lethal weapons to bring situations under control. The police should use less violence. If a police officer kills a person by the means of unjust policing, based on unfounded situations, they should be retrained before they go back on regular duty. Laws should be established so that they do not allow these police to get back or to get away with their wrong deeds. These young men have never been stopped by the police. However, based on what they see on TV, what they've heard from the news, these are their concerns. I thank you for hearing me tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Comments.
Have a good night.
You
All right,
too.
take
Thank
care,
you so
Gary.
much.
Be well.
Stay safe.
Bless you.
Let me see that. That Bernstein's in. Bernstein.
Our next speaker is Lena Anderson via Zoom. Lena, if you're on, please unmute yourself.
She's on. Mhm.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Hi,
Lena.
Hello, Lena.
I am so happy to follow that gentleman because I want to clarify that the NAACP was part of several meetings held by the Ministers' Council and other community organizations that discussed the 10 demands of the national organization of the NAACP. And they were pared down from 10 to the 5 that he just spoke on. I am concerned that in his articulation and detail, you may have missed the thrust that we are talking about White Plains, even though other areas in our Westchester community have had specific incidents that we leverage our concerns with. We know that the White Plains Police have been constantly revamping their training and doing some things to improve their service to our community. And yet we still have concerns because it seems on the national stage, we have people dying from traffic stops. We have people dying from in their own homes. And of course, the Floyd matter escalated the concern of police behavior. So I am happy to say that I want to see in this listening session people feeling free to come forward with their White Plains experiences so that we can very specifically address those issues that are in our community, making White Plains one of the pivotal microcosms of success in police change. I really am grateful that we've had this opportunity to come together in this way. I think that the issue that spurred us and came to our attention in our neighborhood was not only the Dobbs Ferry incident he mentioned, but the killing of Danroy Henry and the killing of other officers in White Plains who were confused. And there is a mindset, if you will, of criminality towards African Americans. And it has to do with experiences as well as misperceptions about African Americans. So, and when we talk about training, I think it's so important, especially since there's now some question about whether anti-bias training is effective. I think yes, it's hard to change the hearts of people, but we certainly can continue to point out specific issues and incidents where people are treated unjustly because of the color of their skin. So I just want to be mindful that we are focused on White Plains and that we are mindful that White Plains is not guilt-free of some of these behaviors that have not gone well for African Americans. And I bring to you a little story about a traffic stop where a young man went into a local Jamaican restaurant when it was dusk. And when he came out, it was a little bit darker, but he just pulled away from the curb in his van, thinking of his wonderful food. And he was stopped immediately because he had not turned on his lights. And when the officer came to the side of the car and knocked on his window, he was shocked. He didn't realize he was even being stopped. But he rolled down his window and put his hands on the wheel as he knew he should. And the officer said, "Get out of the car." Now, that was an immediate escalation where the first thing should have been, show me your license, registration, and insurance card. So it went downhill from there. He was out of his car. He was handcuffed, ultimately thrown on the ground, tased. 4 other police cars were called. Unfortunately, it turned bad so quickly. And this young man was approximately 23 years of age, really a young man. And so he is forever scarred by this issue, even though he survived it. When taken to the police station, I asked him if he asked for a complaint form, if he was allowed to fill out a complaint on the way he felt he was treated. And he said he was afraid to ask. But I think that's another thing we can sort of incorporate into police practice of making complaint forms user-friendly so that people do feel free to express what has happened to them. And I think that's another reason why we're not getting enough feedback from people who've had these experiences, that there's nothing really in place to collect that data. So I hope before the listening sessions are over, we find a way to get more input on specific incidents. As I said, that we remain focused on White Plains, recognizing that it's not a perfect place, but it's not a horrible place. We have work to do, but we can do it. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you for
Thank
your
you, Lena.
comments.
One more speaker waiting outside.
Hello, how are you?
Pastor,
Dr. Edward Williamson.
How you doing?
Go to the desk. How you doing?
You can, or you don't have to, it's up to you.
You all can say.
Yes,
So that
I
people can hear me, I want you to hear. Sir, thank you. Don't worry about it.
No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
You're a trained Baptist preacher, you know.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Edward O. Williamson, pastor.
Louder, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Edward O. Williamson, pastor of the Bethel Baptist Church of White Plains, New York. And I'm here speaking as a citizen of White Plains. I've lived in this community for 16 years, and it is a wonderful community, and I feel blessed to be a part of it. I'm speaking today on behalf of the silent voices. Many times people are silent. They don't have someone to represent them or to speak up for them. And I can speak from experience as being a Black man in the community, and sometimes the fears that people have in regards to relating with police. I'm here today to encourage transparency with the police department so that we can have statistics available that show us percentage of arrests, the ethnicity, the racial demographics, the types of crimes that are charges that are posted. I'm here to advocate that people are to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Sometimes in the acting out of their duties or performance of duties, when you're a person of color, you feel like you are presumed guilty, and then that you have to prove yourself innocent. I'm speaking on behalf of frustrated and hopeless young men and women today who are feeling a sense of despair because not only are they dealing with challenges with...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's a little hard to hear. Could Reverend Williamson please speak a little louder?
I'll use my preaching voice. Can you hear now?
Thank you.
All right. Yes, I'm here to also speak on behalf of those people that are feeling despair and hopelessness because not only are they challenged by the fear of encountering police, but they're also challenged by a court system or a legal system that many times takes the side.
No, I was trying to adjust it for you. Okay.
Can you hear me now? All right, thank you. And I'm saying I'm always here to speak for the silent voices in the community, those that may be fearful of stepping forward. Even myself was a little apprehensive of coming to speak to this group today because you don't know how people will interpret what you say. Mm-hmm. Mine is that I'm not here to defund police. I'm not here to dismantle police. I'm not against policemen in the performance of their duties in a manner that is fair to people, that treats people with respect. I am not against that. I want to be a bridge builder and to have relationships with the police department. And I'm an advocate for community policing. I believe that when we build relationships between the officers and the community, between leaders in the community, that it will help build bridges and it will help overcome some of the mistrust that we are experiencing today. So again, I'm looking for transparency so that we can have statistics, so we can look at the real data and have hard factual evidence to look at when we're making assessments. I'm here to promote community policing. I'm here to encourage us to have some type of mental or crisis type units that will help with those type situations. I am always remembering the events that involve Mr. Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. and the challenge of when someone is in their home and they are supposedly in distress, but a situation happens where at the end of the day, the people that came to help you end up killing you. And that is a reality. That is a factual thing that happened here in White Plains with all the good officers and all the good policies that we have, but it can happen. And so we want to put things in place so that those things would have a less likely chance of happening and occurring. And pretending that the things that are happening in our country and around our nation will not spill over and impact our community, I believe that's a fallacy. I believe we have to be aware that when you're watching the news, when you're listening to the radio or reading the newspapers or online, that not only are police officers getting messages, but also the public is getting messages. And the messages for people of color and Black people in particular is that we are in an adversarial relationship instead of a cooperative partnership in the community. We want our communities to be safe. We want our officers to do their jobs, but we also want them to treat us with dignity and respect when they deal with us. I'm a pastor, so I hope that I wouldn't have to worry about being disrespected, but when a police car pulls up behind you, there is a tension that goes up, even if you haven't done anything wrong. I've been driving before and I've seen people pass me because I'm trying to do the speed limit. I've seen people pass me, because I'm stopping at the stop sign to make sure it's not a rolling stop. Okay, or something that could be miscommunicated as to what I'm doing. So there's a tension that you feel as a person of color. I'm speaking also, I have two son-in-laws that visit. One is over 6 feet, and he's was a lineman, a defensive back with Syracuse. And so he's taller than me. And my other son-in-law is a nice sized fellow, and they are like bodyguards to me. And I don't want them to have to worry when they visit White Plains, if they're driving through the community or whatever. I also have two grandsons that I'm concerned about. So I'm concerned not just about today, I'm concerned about the future. And I want us to take this, this initiative, this moment in history that we have, and let's make good use of it. Let's make good use of it. And let's come together. We are not adversaries in this. We are community partners in this. And I want to stress that. I pride myself in being one of the chaplains for the public safety department, and I pride myself in trying to represent both sides fairly. We have wonderful officers. We have wonderful police department, but we have to also make sure we put things in place because things can happen. And when they do happen, we want to be able to have measures to respond to them. And we want to make sure we can look at statistics. We want to look at statistics, the factual things. We want to enforce community policing, and we want to see a mental health crisis type unit to help those in those situations where it may not be a criminal matter, but someone may need assistance as opposed to legal actions from the police. So I thank you for this time. I hope I gave you something to work with, committee, and I'm praying that your job will be done and that our community will be a better community as a result of your efforts. God bless you.
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate those comments. Well said.
I understand that Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. would like to speak. Mr. Chamberlain?
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Hi, Kenneth. How you doing?
I'm well. I'm well. I first want to just quickly address the committee and just simply say, you know, you've got your work cut out for you guys, and I hope that you are successful in everything that you're trying to accomplish as part of this task force. My name is Kenneth Chamberlain Jr. I am one of the co-founders of the Westchester Coalition for Police Reform, which was founded in 2012 after the killing of my father, Kenneth Chamberlain Sr., in White Plains, New York. I also serve on the Westchester County Police Reform and Reimagining Task Force. So I know that these meetings can get a little crazy sometimes, and we agree to disagree on certain points, but listening to you guys right now and listening to some of the recommendations or suggestions, it seems like we're all pretty much on the same page with some of the changes that need to happen. We've heard talk of the civilian complaint review boards, which definitely need subpoena power, because if they don't have teeth, then they're worthless. There's no point in actually having a CCRB if they cannot compel an officer to come and testify. So I think that is a good thing. I heard them speak about the anti-racist training, which I think is good because of implicit and explicit biases, the data collecting, community policing aspect. Getting back to what real community policing is. I remember being young, living in this city of White Plains, and the police officers that came around in your neighborhood were police officers that you were familiar with, who not only knew you, but knew your parents, knew your grandparents, knew your children. It was a different type of policing back then. It was more proactive than being reactive, and we have to get back to that. I've heard the talk of the crisis intervention teams, which is something that definitely has to happen, because although Westchester County does have an intervention team, they are only working Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And as far as my knowledge is, that has not changed yet. And that is something that definitely needs to happen. But one thing that we need to also look at, and maybe some of the officers that are part of the task force could actually chime in on this, is that when we talk about mental health, do we talk about the mental health of the police officer? Do we talk about the fact that they do psych testing in the beginning phases when they are being vetted to become police officers, but is there any more psych testing done after that? Because we know that law enforcement officers have a difficult job. And there's no telling what you might have experienced or might have seen from the point that you got hired to maybe 6 months on the job. So mental health is very important. And they have to understand that that doesn't mean that if you're traumatized because of an event that you've seen while you're on the job, that's going to automatically have you removed from the force. But we need to know the mental health of the officers that are responding to different calls. The last thing that I want to just talk about is there should be a greater number of people on here talking about their experiences with White Plains Police, be it positive or be it negative. But I think that, as some people suggested or inferred, was the fact that what we have seen time and time again is that even if evidence suggests that officers have committed wrong or done some type of wrongdoing, there's no accountability. And that is what the big issue is will you actually hold these officers accountable? That if we put these mechanisms in place, are there going to be people in those positions that are really, truly going to enforce what these recommendations are? Or will they even be adhered to when you put your recommendations together? Will the mayor then take these recommendations and say, this is what's going to happen from here on out? And this is the concern of the people. And when you talk to the average person out there in the communities that I'm in, be it Winbrook, Lake Street, Ferris Avenue, there is no trust there. We can't act as if the people in these communities trust law enforcement like that, because they've seen too many times that individuals might be assaulted by officers or mistreated in some way, and the narrative that's put out there goes against what they're saying, and no one takes them seriously. So while these things are great, and I love some of the suggestions that have come up, I just truly, truly hope that when you guys finally put everything together and you present it, that it's going to be taken seriously, that they're going to look at it and they're going to put these mechanisms in place so that, God forbid, if someone else should have to go through or experience something that my family has gone through, that there's going to be some real level of accountability. Because when you're dealing with situations like this, there can be no justice. Because justice would be, for an example, bringing my father back. But I really won't get into that and really talk about that aspect of anything, because I understand the litigation that's still pending right now. And I'm still fighting this fight 9 years later. So if Black lives truly matter to the city of White Plains, all of this stuff needs to be fixed and it needs to be addressed. And we do that by holding individuals accountable. We have to address the elephants in the room, not elephant, but elephants in the room, and say, look, if an officer has committed wrongdoing, then that officer needs to be held accountable. If you truly want us to trust the process. But again, myself, as well as many other people out here, have seen time and time again that even when evidence suggests that officers should be indicted, there's nothing. The wagon is circled, they're protected, and they go back out there and they commit even more egregious acts. So I'm going to end right there. But like I said, I definitely agree with some of the suggestions that I've heard so far, from the review board to the training to data, policing, mental health services, but definitely have to look at the mental health services of law enforcement officers as well, because they need it just like anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts.
So that's it for the registered speakers. I don't know if is there anyone else that would like to speak, that would like to comment, that has not commented?
Okay, so we're here for 6, we're gonna wait.
Okay, let the group know that.
Okay, so right now we have no more registered people who want to speak or any more people who want to come in person, but we are here till 6. So we will be here in case someone else comes in or someone else registers to speak. Thank you all. Appreciate your comments.
Would you like me to read some comments?
Oh, we do have some comments that came in via the email. So Karen, you want to read those?
Sure. Would you like me to go to the podium or?
Sure. Why not?
So these are some comments that have come in via email. Let's start. I'm not going to attach the names to them because they did not authorize me to do that. We have one comment. I think trust in the police starts by trusting that the police are subject to the same laws as all citizens, that as upholders, they must be above reproach. One way that this respect for law is demonstrated is through the adherence of lesser laws, such as traffic rules. Seeing members of the police turn on emergency lights merely to avoid waiting at a red light, or ignore stop signs or other signs such as no turn on red, gives the impression that those officers see themselves as above the laws they must uphold. While an emergency would give them the right to bypass these rules, that emergency must be clearly conveyed with continuous use or lights and or siren. The little things matter, and this is only one thing. It can have as much impact as officers smiling when people on the street ask questions or have other mundane interactions. We received another comment that reads, "Thank you for opening up this subject to public comment and taking the time to consider reforms to our local police force. I have lived in Westchester all of my life and chose to buy a home in White Plains and raise my family here because I love the diversity and community feel. It is vitally important to me that my children grow up in a place where they are next to and presumed to be equals with children of all races, religious backgrounds, sexual orientation, and economic levels. I want them to trust that our police force will keep not only them safe, but also their friends. I and my children have white skin, and I do not generally fear police, although certainly as a woman, I can feel afraid when in the presence of a dominant and authoritarian presence. As a psychologist, I would advocate for more training in mental health disorders, effective approaches, and just general training in communication and showing some warmth in order to be more effective with the general public. But most importantly, I want to strongly, strongly, strongly advocate for and request that these 8 police reforms be implemented immediately. I am not sure where White Plains stands on all of these, but they are evidence-based reforms that can lead to reduction in police violence and more community collaboration and trust. The campaign 8 Can't Wait provides a ton of research on why these reforms lead to improvements and why these can be the most powerful changes to make. Here are the 8 reforms I request. Again, White Plains might be doing some of this. I am not sure. It was hard to find online. Number 1, ban chokeholds and strangleholds. 2, require de-escalation. 3, require warning before shooting. 4, require exhausting all alternatives before shooting. 5, duty to intervene. Require officers to intervene and stop excessive force used by other officers and report these incidences immediately to a supervisor. 6, ban shooting at moving vehicles. 7, require use of force continuum. Establish a force continuum that restricts the most severe types of force to the most extreme situations and creates clear policy restrictions on the use of each police weapon and tactic. 8, require comprehensive reporting. Require officers to report each time they use force or threaten to use force against civilians. Comprehensive reporting includes requiring officers to report whenever they point a firearm at someone, in addition to all other types of force. Campaign Zero has a ton of information on these policies and others, and research to support their effectiveness and statistics on implementation. www.joincampaignzero.org. In particular, here are more in-depth recommendations regarding the limiting the use of force, and data to back this up. Again, join campaignzero.org/force. Thank you for considering the feedback of this community. We received another comment that reads, I read Governor Cuomo's letter regarding the formation of police reform committees in all New York jurisdictions. He mentions a collaborative approach and not an adversarial one is key. I reviewed the list of topic areas that will be a focus during your listening sessions. There seems to be one area that is not listed. How about re-education of the community on how to respond to a police officer when they are trying to do their job, protecting all the people in our community? For example, when a police officer asks someone to stop, you have the right to ask why, politely and with respect, not screaming obscenities. That is when incidents happen, tempers flare, and trouble happens. Public safety and police safety are extremely important, but reform needs to work both ways. Don't you agree? We received a comment that said, to whom it may concern, I would like to say that the White Plains Police have never been anything but nice and kind to me. They brought back my husband who had wandered off due to dementia. They stopped me when I was driving at night once without my headlights on, but just advised me that they weren't on and didn't give me a ticket when they could have done so. Even when I got my one speeding ticket 4 decades ago, they were polite and treated me fairly. I think it would be a good idea to psych test applicants for the force to rule out people who are prejudiced or want to be on a power trip. But I certainly don't think the police should be defunded. Another comment reads, I oppose defunding the police. I believe that police reform committee is Me Too politics. He feels that White Plains PD is operating at exceptional standards. And another comment which says, how many people have been killed by White Plains police or died in police custody each year this millennium? What White Plains citizens knew someone personally who died as a result of activity with the White Plains police? If the answers to these and similar questions are overwhelmingly or completely no, then this Civilian Complaint Review Board is a pointless exercise, as the information from the questions above should have been gathered first to determine if very much reform is needed. And those are some of the comments that we've received recently.
A primal need of human beings is the need to belong. And kids need to feel a sense of belonging. And if they're not receiving the appreciation of adults and appreciation of good role models and not receiving the appreciation of their community, they're going to create their own way of having that need met. Gangs do that. Then you're dealing with trouble.
Franklin Field was a very closed community. A lot of times things would happen, stabbing, shootings. People wouldn't call the police. They didn't trust in us. They didn't want to deal with us. 2007 was our worst year. Peak time, there's a lot of drug activity. We led the city, unfortunately, in homicides. but every year we arrest thousands of people. That in and of itself doesn't work. Some people need to go to jail, but after the arrest is when the work begins.
The Youth and Police Initiative, also known as YPI, is a program that brings kids from tough neighborhoods together with the police that patrol them. YPI is in many, many cities, and we're working in many neighborhoods with kids, who have some things in common. Poverty, dangerous environments, there's distrust. There's not a sense of cohesion or common mission or common goal. With YPI, we really believe in the power of community. We reconnect people at large, but it really starts in a much more intimate way. We get 10 or 12 kids to develop a sense of their own community.
We go out, recruit, talk to some of the young people in the neighborhood, and invite them to join the YPI program. And I would say it's a youth development program. It's for 3 weeks, 2 sessions each week, and the last week you'll be meeting with police officers and get to know them a little bit better.
If kids can learn to understand how to deal with police as the prime examples of authority in society, that it's not such a big jump to do the same with teachers or school administrators or employers, the whole gamut.
Young people want structure. So a big part of the program is all of the dialogue is facilitated, it's structured, but we give the young folks an opportunity to really talk about who they are.
We want to teach the police how to do a better job with you guys, right? I mean, you guys get hassled by the police?
Yeah. Like they have a good cop and they have a bad cop.
The problem is there's a lot of stereotypes. The police officers have their uniform, the young people have their uniform in the police's eyes. The YPI makes great steps to break down those barriers.
Most of the kids around here don't want to talk to the police. Like, they have something against them. Like, they don't want to be seen near them.
At first, I didn't really want to do it. I was like, oh my God, this is just going to be another boring program. I'm going to just sit there for a few days.
I didn't like the cops, but I wanted us to stay like in a quiet place, not staying in the street, and just meet some new people.
Wait, like peers, what does that mean again?
Peers means like your friends.
What I did.
From the orientation, we're meeting with kids, and each time we have an objective to get the kids a little further along in terms of processing their own fears, getting more comfortable with each other, getting comfortable with being able to stand up in front of adults.
You're up there in front of the officers. We don't want you to be nervous and jittery and giggly and all of that stuff. So
when Corey first told me about the program, I didn't know we were going to meet any cops whatsoever. Then during the orientation, he was like, the last 2 days there are going to be some cops and we're going to meet them. So it was like, whoa, like I didn't know what to expect.
I kind of rolled my eyes because a lot of community service related things tend to be a little fluffy.
The touchy-feely stuff is not my comfort zone. I'm much more comfortable cruising around and doing our thing, jumping out and seeing what's going on in the neighborhood versus sitting down and talking about feelings. Nobody in here is comfortable going out expressing personal feelings like that to strangers.
Let me start off. My name is Walter Wade. I'm 15, going on 21. I chose not to fight with my brother because I know it was affecting my brother's relationship and my family and my sisters.
Once they heard how impressive the youth were, they said things that I think they wanted to tell their story. Some of the officers said things that I had never heard, and I've known them for many years.
I did okay in school. I was always like a BC student, so I don't think
And some of them were very brief, and some of them were very lengthy and very open about their childhood and where they came from.
The stories just kept getting deeper and deeper, and the kids were able to hear that some of our officers, when they were younger, they had gotten arrested. They had parents that hit them.
This is like all about like your life, like the cops was telling us what they've been through, and it was interesting because they've been through a lot too. So his name is Michael
St. Peter. Holy name, isn't it?
He is 32 years old. He plays sports. He said he wasn't that good at it. His brother was better than me, he said.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be a police officer, and there he is.
Junior just told me that his hero is his brother, who's 20 years old, mainly because he takes good care of him and his other brothers and sisters. So.
Hey Rick, this is Rick, and this here was his parents. And
I came home with a smile on my face, like I just met a whole bunch of policemen. It kind of changed the way I look at them, because before, they would just stare at me. And even if I don't know them now, they'll look at me, but you know, I'll always say like, hey, what's up, like that.
I noticed the police officers were talking to the boys as if they knew them their whole life. Like they understood what they were going through, because half of the police went through the same thing all these boys went through.
You're kind of going in there thinking you're set up to fail based on the historical encounters we've had in Franklin Field. It was nice to see the kids open up to us. It was nice to see police officers open up to them. On the same note, it was good for them to know that our only job is to keep them safe.
YPI definitely puts a big spotlight on those resilient kids, those kids who don't let their surroundings get them down, and they just keep doing what they're supposed to be doing, just like their parents are.
They spent 2 evenings together with team building, sharing these stories, having some pretty good discussions, doing a scenario. There's a lot of empathy and understanding and a real sense of wanting to reach out, you know, and keep this going.
Like, you get to see a different point of view.
You guys don't have to be afraid to come talk to us. Now you guys know we're here for you guys also. So you guys ever have anything for us, just come grab us.
The stereotypes that everybody had of each other when they walked in the room is gone when they walked out.
By the time it's over and we have the celebration dinner, now we've invited all kinds of community people in, and that validation is what allows them, I think, to feel more comfortable in their larger community where they live.
You want to say anything?
I love you all.
I think that before you can change perceptions, you have to change the way people are feeling about themselves and their community. The YPI has started to change the mindset of the residents, and so that permeates out to the rest of the community.
The boys from YPI, they started doing less things they know they're not supposed to do. Most of them I noticed went back to school or us trying to stay out of trouble.
Crime is down. Crime is down in that area. Crime is down in the district, and that's an attribute to Youth Link and YPI. It's a great partnership.
The whole team has an opportunity to shine today, to celebrate youth and family. It's the culmination of all our efforts. We can just give a round of applause to everybody on the stage. Everybody had a hand in putting this together.
So there's not as much friction between us. YPI kind of changed Franklin Field for the positive, for the better.
So again, that was a video shared with us by Dr. Jim Eisenberg, who spoke to the committee earlier this evening. Thank you, Dr. Eisenberg.
Thank you for sharing that with all of your colleagues on the committee. Appreciate it.
Any more callers? Any more registrants? Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to be here till 6 because that's what you said. So.
I did receive something just now describing an incident that occurred. White Plains citizen comments that I was almost T-boned at an intersection by a police officer. The police officer ran a red light without a siren or flashing lights. I had to slam on my brakes, and if I could have seen the car number, I would have reported it. I have seen squad cars speed down my street at high speeds with no regard to human life. So that was another comment that we just received on the Zoom.
Does anyone have any comments they'd like to make, share?
Janet, I have a question.
Well, we can't answer questions, but we can hear your comments.
I'm wondering, I think the White Plains Police Department has a youth training program of some sort. I wonder if anyone is familiar with it and can share with us what the police are doing with our youth already. That video suggests that there are cities working directly with youth. I know Greenburgh has a junior sort of program to help youth. And I was under the impression that White Plains might also have such a program. Does anyone know?
Well, it's Chief, I can respond, but is Chief on there?
He is.
Or Captain Spencer? Captain Spencer. Chief is there.
If Chief Castelli or Captain Spencer is on the line and they'd like to comment, that would be fine. No?
Can you hear me? I'm on my phone now.
Yes,
Chief Castelli.
Hi, Chief.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You know, I would, if you want, I see Frank there, and he's way better at me that delineating some of the things we cooperate with the Youth Bureau with, including the
I would be happy to respond
program and things like that. But
Frank, did you want to comment?
yeah, so we have several connections with the White Plains Public Police Department. One is that we have a collaborative program called the Explorers program that works hand in hand with the White Plains Police Department, which provides career and law training and connects young people, especially young people, boys and girls, to the work of police and builds connections, relationships with our police department. We also have a youth academy where we are providing opportunities for young people to engage the police department and learn further about careers in public safety, but also be more in tune to the work of the police and their work. And then beyond that, we have other kinds of relations with the police department. Police are actively involved in our My Brother's Keepers program. We serve hundreds and hundreds of young men of color here in White Plains through the My Brother's Keepers initiative. and the White Plains Police are part of our advisory committee. And then we have we have mentoring programs, young boys mentoring programs in which police officers serve as mentors. We also have we do an annual, we do the annual basketball program where our young people play basketball against the police officers. So, and of course, you all know that the police department police officers are school resource officers in our area schools. So there is really a strong connection between the Youth Bureau, our young boys of color, and the White Plains Police Department. And, we do annual cookouts and just an array of programs that bring police and young people together to strengthen our partnership, to strengthen our relationship.
Does that answer your question, Lena?
It does. I was aware that something was going on. I didn't know all the specifics, but thank you, Frank Williams.
Yes, thank you, Frank. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Chief.
It's Justin Brash. I just want to add one quick thing, that very often the police come sometimes with equipment, sometimes without, to the churches and synagogues throughout White Plains and meet with the kids and talk to the kids and share with the kids. I've seen it in a couple of the synagogues. I've been to Calvary Baptist Church, where Reverend Trollinger, of course, is the pastor, and seen beautiful interaction between all types of kids and many types of police. And it's been a very positive experience for everyone. And whether that's formal or informal, it has touched hundreds of children or youth in our city.
Thanks, Justin.
Well, there's no doubt that the White Plains Police Department does have a lot of good police officers. They do a lot of good things for the community, but this committee here is focusing on police reforms in areas that need to be modified. We're looking to make recommendations in some shortcomings. But, we all know that the White Plains Police Department has fine officers that do a lot of good things with the community and the youth in particular. So there's no doubt there. But there is the need for reform in a lot of situations. So that's what we're going to be working towards.
Yes, Janice, I just thought it would be good, since we saw the video of the Boston police working with youth, if we had a frame of reference for what White Plains is doing with youth. And now that we have that, can we back up to accountability? Can we ask or talk about qualified immunity? Would the chief sort of explain that to us and how it impacts police? Because when we talk about accountability, immunity seems to run in the face of being accountable.
Well, we agreed, the committee agreed that we wouldn't be answering questions, that we would be taking notes, writing things down, and coming back to the public with answers to the questions. So that's, what we agreed to. Sorry.
So the question is, what is qualified immunity in our community?
I think we can answer that. Can we answer that? Can the chief answer that?
Yeah, he's on a phone. The service was not great.
Okay. Can somebody answer that?
Can I speak to that?
Who's that?
Richard Wilstad.
My name is Richard Wilstadter. I'm an attorney. So
Go right ahead.
So the doctrine of qualified immunity is what prevents people from suing the police or police officers because of a legal doctrine, that prevents people from being able to recover in a civil action under certain circumstances. So that doctrine might prevent you from suing, say, the district attorney if you were wrongfully convicted, if they could interpose that as a defense if somebody was wrongfully prosecuted, for example. So it doesn't affect policing directly, but the question of whether cities like the city of White Plains and its police department or police officers should be subject to civil liability is something the committee could, make recommendations to. But this is a matter of state law, and sometimes also a matter of federal law when it comes to the kinds of defenses that can be interposed by civil defendants in such matters.
Thank you. Lena, that helps you? Thank you, Richard, for that. We're going to be on for another 15 minutes. Any other questions, comments? Not questions, comments, concerns, sorry. Issues?
Our next meeting is Friday. What's up?
I think it's lunchtime. We got a lot to talk about.
I have one comment that was relayed to me about police mental health.
Go ahead.
It was from a wife and a mother, and she felt that therapy should be mandated because they will not ask for it, and they all need it. And they also need the training to deal with people who have disabilities, not just mental illness, but there are other disabilities that can cause people to have an inability to be compliant with police. And if police don't understand that, they will escalate. But she understood that, she felt that this was a good thing we were doing. But yeah, she did feel that police will not seek therapy because it will make them look weak.
Thank you.
And some other people in the community have told me they feel afraid to come here. They feel some police are not for this. They might be harassed, that some are kind of monitoring who's coming. I don't know if that's true, but some people feel that. That is something else I've heard. Some people have posted on Facebook, White Plains Unbiased, and then there were, it wasn't a big deal, but they were sort of like a big Trump pro-police sort of rally poster. And some people felt uptight. I just want to say that maybe people aren't coming through because they feel that. They don't feel that. They feel that maybe even if they tell their story in an indirect way, that it will be recognizable and traceable to them.
Well, we try
because it's a small community. And we know each other, and the story itself will sort of lead to them.
We try to put things into place where we can make people feel comfortable about telling their story. We have 4 organizations that we listed on the flyers. Is it 4? 5. We have 5 organizations that we listed on the flyers that we put out there so that people who did not feel comfortable telling their stories could go to any one of those organizations and tell someone their story, and it would be heard. They could even tell you, and you could.
I did that, and I gave them my personal email. They haven't come through yet, but yeah, I think sometimes the details in your story can sort of be obvious in not a huge city like Manhattan, where I grew up, where the police might recognize the story. That's their worry, I think.
Okay.
That the story itself would be traceable.
Yeah. I don't know how we can fix that.
I don't either. I'm just saying that's a concern out there. I don't think it's necessarily fixable either, but
all 21 of us on this committee are able to take testimonies and concerns from the public and bring them back to the group so that we can share them. You know, we're all able to do that and encouraged to do that, you know. Just so everyone will know, Karen is going to read off the names of the committee members, just so you know who's on the committee. Are you going to let them know where they're from?
Yes, yes, I
And
will.
she'll let you know their what organization they're affiliated with, or whether they're a resident or not.
Happy to do that. Okay, so Janice Griffith, as you all know, is our chair. Janice is president of the NAACP White Plains Greenberg branch. I'm just going to read these in alphabetical order. Joseph Castelli, he is the police chief for the city of White Plains. Merlene Chauvette, who is a White Plains resident who works at the Slater Center and is very active in the Frank?
The Haitian
The Haitian community,
yeah.
correct.
The Haitian Resource Center, yeah.
Haitian Resource
What's your
Center.
last name?
Rosemarie Eller. Rosemarie is a White Plains resident, and she is president of the White Plains Board of Education. Kayla Garcia. Kayla is a resident. She works at El Centro Hispano. She also runs the Westchester Community College satellite facility in Yonkers, and she's a resident of White Plains. Wade Hardy, who's here in the room with us today. Wade is a member of the Westchester Rocklands Guardian Association.
And a resident.
And a resident. Katrina Jackson, who is a resident of White Plains. Brian Johnson, who represents the White Plains PBA. Michelle Jones, a student at White Plains High School. Nada Cater, director of Westpac. Harriet Lowell. Harriet chairs the, Nada is also a resident, and Harriet is a resident as well. She is also chair of the Mayor's Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities. Patrick McCarchuk, who is with the Westchester County District Attorney's Office, and who does handle a lot of White Plains cases. Kimberly McNair. Kimberly works at My Sister's Place, which is located in White Plains, and which is, of course, an organization that advocates for domestic violence victims. Patrick Shelley. Patrick is a member of the Westchester Coalition for Police Reform. Captain James Spencer. Captain Spencer is the head of the Community Advocacy and Strategic Initiatives Division for the White Plains Police Department. Minister Donald Stevens. He is a resident and also a deacon at Little Mount Zion Holy Church. Bernie Toms is a security consultant for the White Plains Housing Authority. Judy Troilo, she is executive director of the Loft LGBT Community Services Center, which is located in White Plains, but which is also a regional organization. Reverend Erwin Lee Trollinger, also in the room with us tonight, is the minister at Calvary Baptist Church in White Plains. Isabel Villar and Judith Alcar, executive director and deputy director at El Centro Hispano in White Plains, also White Plains residents. Marie Vitali is a resident and a local 18B attorney for many years, doing criminal defense work. Frank Williams, also in the room with us tonight, is the director of the White Plains Youth Bureau. How long have you been with the Youth Bureau, Frank?
Going on 35 years.
35 years. And finally, Richard Wilstatter is also a resident and a criminal defense attorney. And those are the 23 members of our committee.
Karen, you left off Lauren Schaller. She works at my sister's place, also with me.
Oh, okay. We had indicated that we were going to designate one person from my sister's place.
Got it.
But I'm happy to include Lauren as well.
That's fine. That's fine.
So as you can see, it's a diverse group of people, and we're all committed to police reform. And we meet weekly. And this is the second of our 3 public listening sessions. We will have our third one next week, and it is going to be geared toward the youth, but not limited to just the youth. And then at that time, we will convene and come back with a date for our questions, our answers to the many questions that we have received. We will come back to the public and address them. So thank you very much for coming on and participating, sharing your comments and your concerns. I was listening very carefully, and hope to see you at the next listening session. Have a good evening, everyone.